The motorcycle screamed through the blizzard at 40 miles per hour, 15 miles over what any sane man would risk in these conditions. Cole Morrison's arms locked around the 9-year-old girl slumped against his chest, her lips purple, her breathing a desperate wheeze that was fading with each passing second. Blood from Grace's mouth stained the white snow trailing behind them. 48 hours without medication. Her small body convulsed, then went terrifyingly still. Behind them, another motorcycle's headlight pierced the storm. Derek Morrison, Cole's own brother, pursuing them with murderous intent through the Montana wilderness at negative 30 degrees. 12 minutes to the hospital. Grace had maybe 5. Cole's pedometer climbed to 45. The bike fishtailed on black ice. For one heart-stopping moment, they nearly plunged 200 feet into the frozen river below. 20 years ago, a stranger saved Cole's life in Afghanistan. Tonight, he would save hers or die trying. Leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments along with the city you're watching from now. Let's continue with the story. Word count 507 days earlier. Whitefish? Montana had been a postcard, a small mountain town of 8,000 souls nestled in snow-covered peaks where millionaires hid from the world. January temperatures hovered at 20 below zero on merciful days. The nearest hospital sat 40 miles away through winding mountain roads that became death traps when storms hit. Cole Reaper Morrison's $5 million cabin perched on 50 acres of private land, isolated and imposing. At 48, he cut an intimidating figure, 6'2", muscular despite his age, a scar splitting his left cheek from an IED blast in Afghanistan, long hair tied back, full beard streaked with gray, hands that perpetually smelled of motor oil. His custom motorcycle company, Morrison Steel, was valued at $800 million, but money couldn't buy back what mattered. 5 years ago, his 12-year-old son, Ethan, died in a motorcycle crash. 6 years before that, cancer took his wife, Catherine. The cabin that once echoed with family laughter now held only ghosts and bourbon bottles. Cole kept Ethan's leather jacket hanging in the garage, talked to it every night like a man slowly losing his mind. The town knew him as Reaper, a nickname from his military days that fit perfectly now. He was a dangerous recluse who built motorcycles and avoided human contact 50 meters from Cole's luxury cabin. In a converted warehouse without heat lived Sarah Hayes and her daughter, Grace. Sarah was 34, but looked older, worn down by 16-hour workdays, 3 jobs, and the crushing weight of being a widow with a sick child. Her husband, Michael, an Army combat medic, had put a gun in his mouth 2 years ago. PTSD had turned a good man into a nightmare. He left Sarah with a 9-year-old daughter and $150,000 in medical debt. Grace Hayes should have been in 4th grade. Instead, she lived in a freezing warehouse, taught herself to read at a 7th grade level, and learned to move silently through the dark. At 4'2" and 60 pounds, she was dangerously underweight. Severe asthma required a $350 inhalers every month, money Sarah didn't have. Sarah worked as Cole's housekeeper, plus night shifts at a diner, plus weekend laundry service. She sold plasma twice weekly for $80 a session. Still, the math didn't work. Every month, Sarah had to choose food or Grace's medication. They were 2 months behind on rent. Eviction was coming in 30 days. Grace knew her mother skipped meals. She knew they were drowning. She knew that every night at 2:45 a.m., when Cole Morrison's lights went dark, there was food in his trash can destined for the dumpster. Food that could keep a 9-year-old girl alive one more day. So Grace made a choice that would change everything. She decided to steal. Word count 800. Grace woke at 2:30 in the morning, her stomach cramping so violently she had to bite her sleeve to keep from crying out. The warehouse temperature read 35 degrees, just above freezing. Her mother, Sarah, was working the night shift at the diner. Wouldn't return until 5:15. 22 hours since Grace last ate, half a sandwich, 18 hours ago. The asthma inhaler sat empty on the milk crate they used as a nightstand. Grace's chest felt tight, her breathing already turning to a wheeze. She pulled on 3 layers of clothing and her mother's oversized coat. Moving slowly in the darkness, the debate raged in her mind for 15 minutes. Risk getting caught versus starvation. Her mother's warning echoed, "Never let Mr. Morrison see you." But Grace had watched Cole throw away half a lasagna at dinner. She'd memorized his schedule over 3 months, lights out by 1 a.m. Deep sleeper until 7. Grace checked the clock. 2:45. She was running out of time. She made her decision. Grace removed her shoes to walk silently, a skill learned from hiding during her father's violent PTA episodes. She'd made a copy of her mother's key weeks ago. The journey across 50 meters of snow felt like crossing a battlefield. No coat, the fabric rustling might give her away. Each step required 30 seconds of careful movement. Grace's bare feet went numb, then started bleeding from the cold. She didn't notice. The smell hit her first: rosemary, garlic, the ghost of Cole's dinner. Her stomach cramped again, harder. The basement entrance opened without sound. Grace had oiled the hinges herself last week. Down the stairs, one creak making her freeze for 5 full minutes, hand over her mouth to muffle the wheezing. Finally, the kitchen came into view. Heaven looked like half a lasagna in a glass container. Bread still in the bag. A fruit bowl on the counter. Grace's protocol was strict. Only take food destined for the trash. She reached for the lasagna with trembling hands. The glass of water tipped over. Grace lunged to catch it, failed. Water splashed across the marble counter. Panic triggered her asthma. The wheeze became a rattling gasp. She grabbed paper towels, trying desperately to clean up, but her hands wouldn't stop shaking. The inhaler in her pocket empty. She'd checked 3 times today, hoping she was wrong. Grace couldn't stop herself. She was eating and choking simultaneously, tears mixing with the lasagna, apologizing to the empty room between desperate swallows. The shame was overwhelming, but the hunger was stronger. The kitchen light blazed on like a spotlight. Cole Morrison stood in the doorway shirtless, leather pants, pistol in his hand. His PTSD night routine always included a weapon. For one frozen moment, they stared at each other, the great reaper and the starving child. Grace's first word came out as a sob. "Sorry." Then again, "Sorry, sorry, sorry." The food fell from her mouth. She backed into the corner, hands up defensively, a posture learned from her father's fists. "I'll clean it. I promise I'll clean it. Please don't fire my mama. Please. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Cole lowered the gun slowly. His eyes took in details: skeletal frame, blue lips from cold. Her bleeding feet leaving prints on his floor. Recognition dawned. This was Sarah's daughter, the one in the photos, the one with asthma, like Ethan. A flashback hit him hard. Grace's face overlaid with Ethan's, the wheezing sound identical. Cole dropped the pistol, hands shaking. This child was starving. On his property, under his nose. Grace collapsed, trying to clean spilled food with bare hands, her monologue broken by gasps. I'll repay you. I'll work. Please don't tell Mama. She works so hard. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Her breathing deteriorated rapidly, lips turning blue. She couldn't get air. Cole snapped out of the flashback. The child was dying in front of him. He moved fast, carrying Grace to the sink, splashing cold water on her face. Where's your inhaler? Grace's whisper was barely audible. Empty. Can't afford. Rage flooded through Cole, not at this child, but at the situation, at the world, at himself for not seeing. He made a decision in that moment that would change everything. He opened his medical cabinet. Into it sat an emergency inhaler, left over from Ethan. Expired but still functional. He pressed it into Grace's hands. Breathe, just breathe. Grace's eyes widened. Kindness was so foreign it felt like a trap. Cole's next words shocked them both. You're going to eat a real meal. Word. Count 1-200. Cole Morrison moved through his kitchen like a man possessed, pulling eggs from the refrigerator, bacon from the freezer, bread from the pantry. His hands shook as he worked, not from fear, but from emotion he'd kept buried for 5 years. This was Ethan's breakfast, the meal Cole made every Sunday morning before everything went to hell. Scrambled eggs with cheese, thick-cut bacon, toast with real butter, orange juice, hot chocolate with marshmallows. Grace watched from the corner, too afraid to move, too confused to speak. She'd expected screaming, punishment, eviction. Instead, this scarred giant of a man was cooking for her at 3 a.m. Sit, Cole said, his voice rough. Sir, I can clean. Sit, eat. Grace approached the table the way someone approaches a wild animal slowly, ready to run. The sizzling bacon triggered something in Cole's memory. Ethan at this same table, laughing, stealing bacon before it was done. The overlay was so strong Cole had to grip the counter to stay present. He slid a full plate in front of Grace. She stared at it like it might disappear. Then she closed her eyes, and tears fell onto the scrambled eggs. The first bite made her sob. She tried to eat slowly but couldn't. Survival instinct took over. She choked, gagged, kept eating. 4 minutes, and the plate was empty. Cole knelt to eye level. Slow down. Food isn't going anywhere. But Grace couldn't slow down. Her body didn't believe him. When Cole placed a second serving in front of her, she looked up with pure confusion. I can't pay. I didn't ask you to. This time, Grace ate slower, savoring each bite. 25 minutes for the second plate. Her color returned. The blue faded from her lips. Her breathing eased. Cole watched in silence, cataloging details. Bruises on her arms old, from living in that warehouse. Clothes with holes. Hands cracked from that. This wasn't neglect. This was poverty. How long has this been happening? He asked quietly. Grace's walls went up immediately. Mom works hard. She does her best. I'm not blaming your mother. I only take what you throw away, Grace whispered, as if that made it acceptable. Cole's heart broke. She was apologizing for surviving. At 5:15, Sarah Hayes burst through the cabin's front door like a woman running from fire. Her night shift had ended at 5. The walk home took 15 minutes, and Grace's bed was empty when she arrived at the warehouse. Pure panic, the kind only a mother knows. Sarah tore through the warehouse, checking the bathroom, outside, everywhere. Then she ran barefoot through the snow to the main cabin. Her worst fears spiraling, medical emergency, kidnapping, death. She pounded on Cole's door. "Grace, Grace!" Cole opened it. Sarah shoved past him without permission, wild-eyed and desperate. She found Grace at the kitchen table, a fork in her hand, food on her plate, safe and warm. Relief hit first, then horror. "I'm so sorry, sir. She's never—" Sarah's mind raced to consequences. Eviction? Police? Jail? "Mama, he gave me food." Grace interrupted. Sarah's brain struggled to process. Cole Morrison, the Reaper, the recluse, the man everyone feared had cooked for her daughter. "I found her eating leftovers." Cole clarified. "I made breakfast." Sarah's pride rose like armor. "We don't need charity." "Mama, please." Grace's plea cut through everything. The visual stopped Sarah cold. Her daughter, who never asked for anything, was begging her to accept help. And Sarah looked worse than Grace Gaunt from skipping meals, exhausted from 3 jobs, barely holding on. "Sit down, both of you," Cole said, his tone leaving no room for argument. "You can't tell me, when did you last eat?" Sarah's silence was an answer. 36 hours. Cole plated food for Sarah without asking permission. He set it in front of her. "Eat, then we'll talk." Pride warred with the hunger. Sarah sat but didn't touch the food. Grace pushed the plate closer. "Please, Mama." Sarah broke. She started eating and couldn't stop crying, silent tears, while she consumed scrambled eggs and bacon like they were a 5-star meal. Cole asked questions gently but directly. Sarah's answers came between bites. The truth spilling out like a confession. $2,000 monthly income from housekeeping. $800 for rent, $500 for debt payments on Michael's medical bills, $200 for utilities, $350 for Grace's asthma medication. The math was impossible. Sarah sold plasma twice weekly for $640 monthly. She skipped meals. She worked a diner night shift and weekend laundry service, but it still wasn't enough. Every month, they fell further behind. Grace's inhaler had been empty for 2 weeks. Sarah was saving $350, but it would take 4 more weeks. Grace might not survive that long. They were 2 months behind on rent. Eviction notice received, 30 days until homelessness. Cole's jaw tightened. "Where exactly do you live?" "The servant quarters, the warehouse building." Cole had never inspected those quarters. He'd delegated property management to Marcus Webb when he bought the land 5 years ago. Who manages the property? Marcus Webb. The name hit Cole like cold water. Marcus Webb, Victoria's new husband. Victoria, Cole's ex-wife, who divorced him 6 months after Ethan died. Marcus, who Cole had hired based on Victoria's recommendation. His instincts screamed warning. This wasn't coincidence. "You're moving to the main cabin," Cole announced, "today." "I won't accept." "The servant quarters are uninhabitable." "That makes me legally liable. This is protection, not charity." Sarah hesitated. Pride versus her daughter's life. Grace coughed a wheezing, rattling sound. The stress triggered another asthma attack. Your daughter is dying, Cole said flatly. Let me help. Sarah's breakdown was total. She cried openly, the first time in front of her employer, in front of anyone in months. Temporarily, she finally managed, until I find something else. We'll discuss terms later. Get your things? After they left, Cole walked to the warehouse to inspect conditions himself. What he found made his blood run cold. No heating system, the unit deliberately broken, not failed. Windows shattered from inside, staged to look accidental. The temperature was 32 degrees and hidden in the corner, barely visible a small camera lens. Someone had been watching Sarah and Grace, watching them suffer. Cole found the camera, traced the wire, pulled the device free, consumer grade, recently installed. This was surveillance, sabotage, something calculated. The question wasn't just why target a random housekeeper, bae. The question was, what did Marcus Webb, and by extension, Victoria, want from Sarah Hayes? And how long had they been planning this? Word count 500. Grace and Sarah's entire lives fit into 2 suitcases. 9 years of existence for Grace, 34 for Sarah, and everything they owned could be carried in one trip. The guest room Cole assigned them was down the hall from his master bedroom, larger than their entire warehouse, with a private bathroom and heating that actually worked. Grace touched everything gently, afraid her fingers might break the lamp, the dresser, the soft bed with clean sheets. Sarah stood in the doorway, visibly uncomfortable. They were intruders in a world they didn't belong to. Cole's awkwardness matched theirs. He hadn't had house guests in 5 years. Ground rules, he said gruffly. Sarah, you keep working. I'm paying your full wage. Grace, you can access the kitchen any time. No more sneaking and no more apologies from either of you. The unspoken tension filled the space between them. 3 broken people learning to exist in proximity. That afternoon, Cole discovered the trailer, a battered 1995 Ford, tucked behind a grove of trees on his property. He'd never noticed it before. Inside, he found an elderly woman wrapped in blankets, heating soup on a camping stove. Been in here 6 months, Martha Henderson said matter-of-factly, her silver hair pulled back, her eyes sharp despite her age. Thought you knew. Cole's confusion was genuine. How had he missed a 72-year-old woman living in a trailer on his land? Martha explained she'd been collecting cans, eating at the church, staying invisible. She walked with a cane, needed hip replacement surgery she couldn't afford. When Cole asked who she was, Sarah appeared from the cabin. That's my mother-in-law, Sarah said quietly. Michael's mother. She's not well. Martha's Alzheimer's was early stage but progressing. She pulled out a worn journal, showed Cole page after page of notes written to herself. Grace, granddaughter, 2 years old, red hair. Reminders of things she kept forgetting. Martha stared at Cole strangely. Have we met before? Son, something in her eyes nagged at Cole's memory, but he couldn't place it. His head injury from Afghanistan had left gaps in his recollection. You're moving to the cabin, too, Cole decided. Second guest room. Martha's pride flared. I'm no charity case. Grandma, please, Grace whispered. Martha looked at her granddaughter. and softened. For the girl, that evening, 4 people sat at a table built for 12. The silence stretched awkwardly until Grace broke it. "Can I ask about the motorcycles?" Cole's surprise showed. Most people avoided personal topics with him. "What do you want to know?" Grace rattled off technical terms. Torque ratios, suspension systems, engine displacement. Roy Bennett had taught her, she explained. Grandpa Roy from the garage in town. Cole knew Roy, the old Vietnam vet who repaired his bikes at cost and never asked questions. "Roy's your friend. He's been teaching me." Grace said, "He's nice." Another connection in this small-town web. Everyone tied to everyone else. Martha suddenly called Sarah Emma, her dead daughter's name. Sarah corrected her gently. Martha pulled out her journal, wrote carefully, "Emma died 8 years ago." Her hand trembled. Grace took her grandmother's hand. The gesture was so natural, so full of love, that Cole had to look away. After dinner, he retreated to his garage, his safe space, where ghosts felt more comfortable than living people. Day 2 began with paperwork. Cole reviewed Sarah's employment file, something he should have done months ago. The numbers didn't match his memory. Sarah's wages had been cut 30% 3 months ago. The reason listed budget constraints. Cole's company was more profitable than ever. There were no budget constraints. The authorization signature belonged to Derek Morrison, his brother, the company COO. A pattern emerged. Every service staff member had received the same cut. Cole had never been informed. He called HR immediately, restored Sarah's full wage, and ordered back pay issued. $4,800 owed, direct deposit today. Then Cole returned to the warehouse with a contractor to document everything. The findings made his blood boil. The heater hadn't failed. It had been sabotaged 3 months ago, wires deliberately cut. The broken windows were shattered from inside, staged to look like weather damage. 3 hidden cameras installed recently, all pointed at the living area. Water damage everywhere, mold growing, electrical wiring stripped to create fire hazards. The timeline matched Sarah's hire date. Sabotage began when Sarah started working 6 months ago. Someone was targeting her specifically. Cole saved all evidence to his personal drive, then drove into town to visit Roy's garage. It was his first social visit in years. Roy Bennett looked up from an engine rebuild, surprise clear on his weathered face. "Cole Morrison in my shop. Hell must have frozen over. I need to ask you about Martha and Grace." Roy's expression shifted to protective. "What about them? You've been helping them." Roy didn't deny it. "Been leaving food boxes on their doorstep. Figured they needed it more than I did." The Cole noticed details he'd missed before: Roy's shortness of breath, the way he leaned heavily on the workbench, the pale cast to his skin. "You all right, old man?" "Old age. Nothing to worry about." Roy deflected quickly. "You taking care of those ladies now?" "Trying to." "Good. They deserve better than they got." Roy paused. "I served in Afghanistan, long time ago." Cole's attention sharpened. "What unit?" Roy's evasion was smooth but noticeable. "Long time ago. Memory's not what it was." Something about Roy's eyes reminded Cole of someone, somewhere, but the memory stayed frustratingly out of reach. Day 3 brought new complications. At breakfast, Cole asked the obvious question: Why isn't Grace in school? Sarah's embarrassment was palpable. She learns at home. Translation couldn't afford school supplies, proper clothes, or the various fees public school required despite being free. Grace's intelligence was obvious. She read adult-level books, taught herself advanced math, but she was missing socialization, structure, everything childhood should include. "I'll enroll her in private school," Cole offered. "That's too much," Sarah protested immediately. "It's an investment in her future." Grace's excitement flared, then died as she read her mother's discomfort. They compromised. Cole would pay tuition. Sarah would repay through work, a fiction that preserved her pride while giving Grace a chance. Grace whispered thank you so quietly Cole almost missed it. That afternoon, Martha wandered outside without a coat, confused and panicked. Grace found her standing in snow, shivering, eyes distant. "Grandma, come inside." Martha didn't recognize her. "Who are you? Where's Emma? I need to find Emma." Sarah came running, calmed her mother with practiced gentleness, brought her back to warmth. Martha's journal entry that night was heartbreaking. "If I'm reading this, I forgot again. Emma is dead. Grace is her daughter. Don't forget Grace." The Alzheimer's medication cost $5,000 monthly. Sarah couldn't afford it. Martha's decline was accelerating. Cole overheard Sarah crying in the bathroom. He researched treatment options, made decisions, but said nothing yet. That evening, Derek Morrison arrived unannounced. Cole's older brother by 2 years walked in without knocking. Immaculate suit, cold eyes, scanning the cabin. He noticed Sarah setting the dinner table, Grace helping in the kitchen. "Getting cozy with the help." Derek's smile didn't reach his eyes. "They're guests," Cole said flatly. "Board meeting next week. Questions about spending." Derek's warning was clear. He was monitoring Cole's finances, looking for ammunition. Derek's parting shot as he left. "Be careful who you trust, brother." On the table, Derek left a folder, deliberately, after he was gone. Cole opened it. Background check, Sarah Hayes, printed on the cover. Inside, Sarah's life laid bare. Her maiden name, Sarah Mitchell. Previous employment, psychiatric nurse in Chicago. 2010-28 specialty PTSD treatment. Then the bombshell. Notable patient Derek Morrison. 20, Sarah had been Derek's therapist after James died. Cole's world tilted. Sarah treated Derek. The timing, the connection, none of this was coincidence. Medical notes copied from somewhere. Patient exhibits obsessive tendencies regarding Brother Cole. Speaks of revenge fantasies. Recommend continued treatment. Sarah's resignation from the hospital sudden. No reason listed. A gap year in 2018 to 2019, completely unaccounted for. Marriage to Michael Hayes in 2019. Current employment starting 6 months ago at Morrison Steel. Did Derek know Sarah before hiring her? Had he planted her here? Was Sarah's presence deliberate? Cole confronted her directly but gently. "You were Derek's therapist." Sarah's shock told him she hadn't known Cole knew. "That's confidential." "He's investigating you." "I need to know why." The truth came flooding out. Sarah's hands shook as she spoke. Something in 20 and Derek confessed something during therapy. He'd sabotaged Cole's motorcycle, not James's bike, Cole's. Derek's goal was making Cole suffer, not killing the boys. Derek believed Cole had been drunk driving the night of the crash, that Cole's recklessness killed both children. Sarah tried to report Derek's confession to authorities. Derek threatened her license, her career, her safety. She fled Chicago, started over, changed everything. Sarah's voice dropped to a whisper. I was terrified he'd find me. Then 6 months ago, Marcus Webb offered me this job. I didn't know Marcus was connected to Derek until I arrived. By then, I was desperate. Grace needed medicine. I took the risk. The pieces clicked together. Derek had deliberately hired Sarah. He'd been planning something for 6 months, keeping his enemy close, watching, waiting. What's his end game? Cole asked. I don't know, but everything he said in therapy, he wants you destroyed, not just hurt, destroyed. Cole made a decision. He called a private investigator, Janet Reese, someone he trusted. Full audit of Derek Morrison's activities, everything. I need it in 48 hours. And cost $50,000. Cole paid immediately. Sarah remembered something from Derek's therapy sessions. A phrase he repeated, when Cole's dead, I get everything. This wasn't just revenge. This was attempted murder, financial takeover, something bigger than Cole had realized. Cole researched Marcus Webb, property manager, married to Victoria Morrison 4 years ago, Victoria Cole's ex-wife, mother of Ethan. She divorced Cole 6 months after Ethan's death, remarried quickly to Marcus. The shell company that owned the warehouse property traced back to Derek and Marcus as partners. Derek owned the property where Sarah lived. Derek controlled her housing. The terrible conditions were Derek's doing. Everything was connected. Derek, Victoria, Marcus, a conspiracy years in the making, and Grace was somehow caught in the middle. Day 5 evening brought Derek back, this time with purpose. He didn't bother with pleasantries. We need to talk. Privately. Anything you say here. Cole wasn't letting Sarah out of his sight. Company jewelry is missing. Mother's Victorian necklace, $50,000. Cole's confusion was genuine. What jewelry? From the office safe. Only housekeeping staff has access. Derek's implication landed like a punch. Sarah's horror. I never. Security footage shows you near the safe yesterday. Cole's defense came immediately. Sarah was cleaning my office. Routine work. Derek pulled out his phone, showed a video. A figure in Sarah's uniform near an open safe. The face wasn't clear, but the implication was damning. That's not me. Sarah's panic rose. Then explain it. Derek's satisfaction was barely concealed. I'm calling the police. This is theft. Cole, not your decision to handle internally. I'll deal with this. No, this is criminal. Sirens outside. Derek had called before arriving. The trap was already sprung. Sarah's terror. I have a record, a trespassing arrest from a protest in 2019. Any new charge means jail time. They'll take Grace. Grace appeared at the top of the stairs. Having heard everything, she ran down, small but determined. I did it. Grace's voice rang clear. I took the necklace, not Mama. Cole's recognition was immediate. Grace was lying to protect her mother, but she was convincing, earnest. I wanted to sell it for Grandma's medicine. Officer Jeff Martinez stepped inside, sympathetic, but bound by duty. If someone's confessing. Derek's skepticism, a 9-year-old master thief. Sarah faced an impossible choice. Let Grace take blame for a crime she didn't commit, or confess to something she didn't do. Martha wandered in, confused by the commotion. "I took it," she declared, genuinely uncertain of reality. 3 confessions, no evidence of actual guilt. Martinez looked frustrated. "I need to sort this at the station." Then Roy Bennett's voice from the doorway, "I have the necklace." Everyone froze. Roy produced the Victorian piece from his jacket pocket. "Found it in my shop. Someone pawned it yesterday. Man fitting Marcus Webb's description." Roy held up a pawn slip with fingerprints. Derek's frame job had been executed by Marcus, who'd botched it. The evidence pointed away from Sarah and straight to Marcus Webb. "Mr. Webb, you're coming with me," Martinez said. Derek's address of Marcus Webb made the clarification necessary. Marcus was arrested for theft. Derek walked free, technically innocent, at least of this particular crime. But the message was clear. Derek was playing a long game, and this was only the opening move. Word count 2,000. Day 6 began with a television weather alert that changed everything. The meteorologist's face was grave as she described the incoming storm. A historic blizzard, the worst Montana had seen in 50 years. 3 to 4 feet of snow expected, wind chills reaching 35 below zero, sustained winds of 60 miles per hour, with gusts up to 80. Timeline 18 hours until arrival, around midnight. Duration 48 to 72 hours of complete whiteout conditions. The message was clear: evacuate or shelter in place. There would be no middle ground, no rescue, no way in or out once the storm hit. Power outages were guaranteed. The town of Whitefish began its panic response. Grocery stores mobbed, gas stations running dry, Highway 93 clogged with vehicles fleeing south. Cole made his decision immediately. The cabin was built for extreme weather, designed by someone who understood Montana winters. They had a generator, enough food for weeks, a fireplace that could heat the entire first floor if necessary. They would shelter in place. Grace's concern came quietly. "What about Roy?" Cole called the garage. Roy's gruff voice answered on the 5th ring. "I'm not leaving, Morrison. Been through worse in 69. This old building survived 40 years. It'll survive tonight. Roy, your heart." "I'll be fine. You take care of those ladies." The stubbornness in Roy's voice left no room for argument, but Cole's instincts screamed warning. Roy's heart condition, the isolation, the cold, it was a recipe for disaster. By 2 in the afternoon, news broke that Marcus Webb had posted bail. $10,000, paid by an anonymous benefactor. Within an hour of his release, Marcus vanished. No trace, no trail, no indication of where he'd gone. The police theory was flight, Marcus fleeing jurisdiction before trial. Cole's instincts told a different story. Marcus was nearby. Marcus was dangerous. And Marcus was coming back. Cole armed himself legally, a rifle, a pistol, both with proper permits. He installed additional locks on all doors, checked every window, prepared the cabin like a fortress. Sarah's fear was palpable, a living thing that filled the rooms. She jumped at every sound, pulled Grace close every few minutes, as if to confirm the child was still there. Grace's nightmares had started. The stress, the violence. The echoes of her father's PTSD fueled rages. It all came flooding back. She woke screaming twice during her afternoon nap, calling for her mother, reliving trauma Cole could only imagine. Martha's decline accelerated under the pressure. She forgot where she was 3 times in an hour. Called Sarah by her dead daughter's name, wandered toward the door insisting she had to get to work at a hospital that didn't exist anymore. The pressure built like the storm itself, invisible but inexorable. At 6 in the evening, Janet Reese arrived with her investigation results. The private investigator looked exhausted, having worked for 48 hours straight to compile what Cole had requested. She spread documents across Cole's dining room table like evidence at a crime scene. "Your brother's been busy," Janet said without preamble. The numbers were staggering. Derek had embezzled $52 million over 4 years, 8 different shell companies, all fronts for funneling money to offshore accounts. The paper trail was complex but traceable if you knew where to look. Then Janet dropped the bigger bomb. "Victoria Morrison is a co-signer on all accounts." Cole's world tilted. Victoria, his ex-wife. Ethan's mother was working with Derek, not just working with him. Partners, the divorce, the quick remarriage to Marcus. All of it suddenly made sense as pieces of a larger conspiracy. They never stopped working together, Edka, Janet confirmed. The divorce was theater. Victoria needed separation from you legally to execute the next phase, which is taking Morrison Steele, with you dead or discredited, and Derek as acting CEO. Victoria inherits as Ethan's mother. Montana law is murky on spousal versus parental inheritance when a child is involved. They've been setting this up for 5 years. Sarah listened from the doorway, her face pale. "He said it in therapy. When Cole's dead, I get everything. I thought it was just grief talking." Janet pulled out another folder. "The original crash investigation. I got the full police file, not just the public record." The report was damning in what it didn't say. The official conclusion, undetermined cause. But buried in the technical analysis were details that had been overlooked or deliberately ignored. Cole's blood alcohol level the night of the crash, 0.0%. He hadn't been drinking. The assumption that had poisoned Derek's mind. The foundation of 5 years of revenge, it was false. The motorcycle examination had been incomplete. One notation, easily missed. Brake lines show possible tampering. Recommend further analysis. The follow-up analysis was never conducted. The investigator who wrote that note had retired 2 months after filing the report. Moved to Arizona. Died of a heart attack a year later. "Someone paid to make this go away," Janet said. "I can't prove it, but the pattern is there." Cole stared at the report, a roaring in his ears. He didn't kill Ethan. His son's death wasn't his fault. 5 years of guilt, bourbon, and self-destruction, all based on a lie. Who tampered with the brakes? His voice came out strangled. "That's the question, isn't it?" Janet closed her folder. Derek or Victoria? The first snowflakes began falling at 8 p.m., 4 hours ahead of forecast. Within 30 minutes, the blizzard hit with violence that defied prediction. Visibility dropped to 10 feet. Temperature plummeted from -10 to -25 in less than an hour. Wind screamed around the cabin like something alive and angry. The lights flickered once, twice, then darkness. The generator kicked in automatically, flooding the cabin with light and blessed warmth. But the message was clear. They were isolated now. Cell towers went down within minutes. The landline worked. But for how long Grace's asthma responded immediately to the temperature change. Her lips took on that familiar blue tint. Her breathing became labored. Sarah checked their inhaler supply. Thanks to Cole's purchases, they had enough. Grace used 2 puffs, then another, finally stabilizing. Martha thought it was 1980. She asked for her dead husband, demanded to know why Emma wasn't home from school yet. Sarah guided her mother to bed, held her hand until the confusion passed. Cole checked every system, every window, every door cupped. The generator had fuel for 96 hours. They were as prepared as possible. But when he tried calling Roy to check on the old man, there was no answer. At 9 p.m., the town's power grid failed completely. The generator kept them lit and warm, but the sense of isolation intensified. They were alone on this mountain, cut off from everything and everyone. Cole stood at the window, watching the blizzard rage. When the security camera screen caught his attention, motion outside, he squinted at the monitor. Probably debris or an animal blown by the wind. Then the shape resolved into something human. Someone was approaching the cabin through the blizzard, deliberately. On foot, Cole grabbed his rifle. "Sarah, take Grace and Martha upstairs. Lock the door." The terror in Sarah's eyes told him she understood. This wasn't a lost hiker. This was a threat. He positioned himself by the front door, watching the cameras. The figure fought through waist-deep snow, stumbling, falling, rising again. When it finally reached the porch, the pounding on the door was desperate. "Cole, help!" Roy's voice. Cole threw open the door. Roy Bennett collapsed into the cabin, his lips blue, his whole body convulsing from hypothermia. He'd walked a quarter-mile through conditions that killed most people in 15 minutes. Garage collapsed. Roy managed through chattering teeth. Cole and Sarah worked together, stripping off Roy's wet clothes, wrapping him in heated blankets, running hot water bottles along his extremities. Grace helped with the precision of someone who'd seen medical emergencies before, thanks to her father's condition. As Roy's temperature slowly climbed back toward survivable, his words became clearer. Chest pain. Bad. For days, Sarah's nursing training kicked in. She checked his pulse, his color, his breathing pattern. Her face went pale. "He's having a heart attack. Active MI. He needs a hospital. Now." The problem was immediate and unsolvable. The hospital was 40 miles away. The blizzard made roads impassable. Ambulances couldn't get through. Helicopters couldn't fly. Roy needed surgery within 24 to 48 hours, or he would die, and there was absolutely no way to get him there. At midnight, Roy's condition stabilized marginally. Sarah administered aspirin and nitroglycerin from Cole's medical kit treatment that bought time but couldn't solve the underlying problem. Roy's prognosis was clear without surgery. He had maybe 48 hours. The storm wouldn't clear for at least that long. Grace sat beside Roy's makeshift bed on the couch, holding his weathered hand, tears streaming silently down her face. "Grandpa Roy can't die." The word grandpa hit Cole hard. Grace had been visiting Roy weekly. The old man had taught her mechanics, reading, given her hope when everything else was falling apart. Roy had been more family to Grace than most blood relatives. Martha's lucidity returned suddenly, like clouds parting. She walked into the living room, her eyes clear and focused in a way they hadn't been for days. She looked at Roy, and something clicked. "Not yet, old friend," Martha said. Taking Roy's other hand, Roy's eyes widened. "Martha, you remember—" "I remember Camp Phoenix," Martha whispered. "I remember saving you. Your eye. The shrapnel." Cole's breath caught. "You were at Camp Phoenix." Martha's tears fell freely. "I saved so many boys. You were one of them. Cole, you don't remember me, but I held your hand while you bled out, told you that you couldn't die, that you had too much life ahead." The memory crashed into Cole like a physical blow. 20 years ago. Afghanistan. The II, a woman's voice in the darkness. "Don't you die on me, soldier. That's an order." Kid Roy spoke through his pain. "She saved my life that day, too. Lost my eye. But Martha, she kept me alive." The connection that had been nagging at Cole finally completed. Martha Henderson had saved both of them. 20 years ago in Afghanistan, she'd given Cole his life back. Now, decades later, he'd saved her granddaughter. The circle was complete. At 1 a.m., glass shattered upstairs. Everyone froze. The sound of impact, then something heavy hitting the floor. Cole grabbed his rifle, motioned for silence. He found the rock in Grace's bedroom, wrapped in paper. The message scrawled in familiar handwriting: "Send Sarah out or they die." Derek's writing. A second crash from the kitchen. Another rock. Another message. "You have 10 minutes." Cole checked the basement windows, evidence of tampering. Though his new locks had held, someone had tried to enter and failed. Then Derek's voice boomed from outside, amplified by a megaphone that carried even over the howling wind. "Brother, send out the nurse who knows too much. 10 minutes or I burn you out." Martha's confusion returned. "Who is that?" Grace clung to Sarah, terror making her small. Sarah moved toward the door. "I'll go. I won't let you all die for—" Cole blocked her path. "No one goes anywhere. We defend this position." But defending against what Derek had them trapped. In the storm, they were isolated from help, and Derek clearly had nothing left to lose. The smell hit first gasoline, sharp and chemical even through the closed windows, then the orange glow. The garage was burning. Derek was destroying everything Cole loved, starting with his motorcycles, 12 custom bikes, a $3 million collection built over decades. More importantly, Ethan's unfinished project bike, the last piece of his son. Grace sobbed when she realized what was burning. She was wearing Ethan's jacket. Now his bike was consumed by flames. The fire spread fast, driven by wind and accelerant. 20 minutes before it reached the main cabin, firefighting was impossible in the blizzard. Cole's rage threatened to overwhelm him, but he forced it down. People mattered more than things. They would survive this. Then Martha spoke, her voice cutting through the chaos with sudden, complete clarity. "I know what happened to your son." Everyone stopped, turned, stared. Martha's memory had flooded back all of it, crystal clear for the first time in months. 6 months ago, I saw the garage. I was walking. I saw Victoria, your wife, tampering with a motorcycle. I didn't understand then, but I watched her cut the brake lines. I called the police, but then I forgot. The Alzheimer's. I forgot everything. The room went silent, except for the howling wind and distant crackle of flames. "Victoria killed Ethan," Martha said. "I saw her do it." The truth hit Cole like a physical blow. Not Derek. Victoria. His wife had murdered their son for $10 million in insurance money, and Derek had discovered Victoria's crime and blackmailed her into partnership. Derek's revenge hadn't been killing Ethan. It had been using Ethan's death to torture Cole for 5 years. Cole's rage transformed into something cold and focused. He finally knew the truth, and the truth demanded justice. Word count 1-200. At 2 in the morning, smoke from the burning garage began seeping into the cabin through ventilation systems. The acrid smell triggered Grace's asthma. Immediately, her breathing deteriorated within minutes. Shallow gasps that didn't bring enough oxygen, lips darkening from pink to blue. Her small chest heaving with effort that produced no results. Sarah grabbed the emergency inhaler, pressed it to Grace's lips. 1 puff, 2, 3. The medication that should have helped did nothing. Grace's eyes rolled back, her body convulsing as it fought for air. Sarah's training made her assessment clinical even through her panic. "She's in respiratory failure, minutes from cardiac arrest." The last inhaler was empty after those 3 desperate puffs. Their supply, so carefully managed, was gone. Roy, despite his own failing heart, tried to sit up, take her to the hospital. Now, Cole's mind calculated the impossibility. 40 miles to Whitefish Regional Hospital, 0 visibility. Roads buried under 3 feet of snow, wind that could flip a truck, temperature at -30 degrees. The math was brutal, 95% chance of dying en route. But watching Grace die here was 100% certain. "We try," Sarah said, her voice breaking. "We have to try." Cole nodded. "I'll drive." Martha pulled herself from the couch, lucid and determined. "Not without me." "Martha, you can't," Sarah started. "That's my grandbaby. I'm going." Roy would stay. His condition made travel impossible. Cole loaded the truck with survival gear, flares, blankets, rope, first aid supplies. Sarah wrapped Grace in heated blankets, but the child was already unconscious, her pulse thready and weak against Sarah's fingers. Martha kissed Grace's forehead, her own hands trembling. "Don't let my grandbaby die. Please, God, don't let her die." Roy's advice came through gritted teeth. Pain medication barely touching his cardiac episode. Route 7, not a Highway 2. Fewer drifts in the valley. Cole made a promise he wasn't sure he could keep. "I'll bring her back." Derek's position outside was unknown. He'd gone silent after setting the fire. But Cole assumed he was still out there, watching, waiting. The strategy was simple: quick exit, surprise advantage, punch through whatever blocked their path. The truck's engine fought against the extreme cold, reluctant to turn over. Grace's pulse weakened. Every second of delay brought her closer to death. Finally, the engine caught. Cole gunned it, crashed through the garage door, or what remained of the garage door after the fire. Wood splintered, metal shrieked. They were free of the cabin. Marcus Webb's car sat blocking the driveway, positioned deliberately to trap them. Cole didn't slow down. The truck hit Marcus's vehicle at 40 miles per hour, spinning it into a snowbank like a toy. Marcus's shocked face appeared in the headlights, then disappeared as they roared past. Behind them, another engine roared to life. Derek on a snowmobile, prepared for this exact scenario. The chase began. Snowmobiles were faster in deep snow, more maneuverable, better suited to these conditions. Derek closed the distance quickly. Cole's truck struggled through drifts, four-wheel drive fighting for traction on ice, hidden beneath powder. The highway entrance was barely visible through the whiteout. Snow depth exceeded 3 feet. Visibility dropped to 5 feet maximum. Cole pushed the truck to 15 miles per hour, dangerously fast, given the conditions, suicidally slow, given Grace's deteriorating condition. Derek's snowmobile gained ground. A rifle strapped to his back caught the truck's taillights. The first shot went wide, punching through the truck bed with a metallic clang that made Sarah scream. She threw her body over Grace, using herself as a shield. Cole swerved, nearly losing control on black ice. The truck fish-tailed, two wheels lifting briefly before slamming back down. Grace's pulse disappeared under Sarah's fingers. Cole. Her heart stopped. Sarah began to appear in the moving vehicle, one hand supporting Grace's neck, the other compressing the tiny chest. 15 compressions, 2 rescue breaths, again and again. 35 minutes to the hospital at this speed. Grace had maybe 20 minutes before brain damage became permanent. The math didn't work. They passed the smoldering remains of Roy's garage, collapsed under snow and age. Cole's memory sparked. Roy had mentioned an emergency medical clinic, closer than the hospital. Silver Creek, 15 miles instead of 40. The clinic would be closed, locked, unoccupied at 2 in the morning, but it would have medical equipment, oxygen, emergency supplies. Cole made the decision. Wrenching the wheel, left onto a forest road barely visible through the snow. The truck pitched violently, Sarah fighting to maintain Sipur as they bounced over hidden obstacles. Derek's snowmobile lost sight of them momentarily in the forest density. Those 30 seconds of advantage might be all they got. Sarah's desperate efforts continued. Compress, 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 breathe, compress, 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 breathe. Her arms burned with exhaustion, but stopping meant Grace's death. Then Grace's heart restarted a weak flutter, but present. Sarah subit in relief, continuing rescue breathing to support the fragile rhythm. 15 minutes to Silver Creek. 10 if Cole drove recklessly. He chose reckless. 40 miles per hour through a forest road in a blizzard, the truck fishtailed continuously, inches from trees, inches from rolling. At one point, they skidded toward a cliff edge, a 200-foot drop to a frozen river below. Cole recovered control with less than a foot to spare. Everyone's realization was silent, but shared one mistake meant death for all of them. The Silver Creek Clinic appeared through the storm, a small building, dark, locked, lifeless. Cole didn't bother with the door. He aimed the truck at the entrance, floored the accelerator, and crashed through. The building's alarm shrieked uselessly. No one would hear it through the blizzard. Inside, exam rooms and supply closets promised salvation if they could find what they needed fast enough. Oxygen tank. Now. Sarah's command cut through everything. Cole tore through cabinets, finding medical oxygen within seconds. Sarah applied the mask to Grace's blue face. An ambu bag, a manual respirator, sat on a nearby shelf. Sarah's training took over completely. She squeezed the bag rhythmically, forcing air into Grace's lungs when the child's body couldn't manage it alone. Grace's chest rose and fell with each squeeze. Color began returning, slowly, painfully slowly. Her pulse strengthened from thread to cord. 20 minutes, Sarah gasped. She needs 20 minutes minimum for stabilization. The snowmobile sound outside announced their time was up. Derek Morrison kicked through the broken door, wild-eyed and unhinged. His rifle was raised, safety off, finger near the trigger. 5 years of grief and rage had broken something fundamental in him. "Step away from the girl," he commanded. Cole positioned himself between Derek and Sarah, between his brother and everything that mattered. "Put the gun down. Derek. She's the key to everything. Sarah knows what Victoria did. Kill Sarah. No witness. Kill you. I get the company. Kill the brat. Send a message to Martha." Derek's logic was fractured. Paranoid. The reasoning of a man who'd lost his grip on sanity. "Everyone has to go," Derek said, almost conversationally. Victoria's plan was elegant, really, but she underestimated how much I'd figure out. So now I'm improvising. Cole saw his brother clearly for the first time in years. Not a villain, but a victim who'd become monstrous. Grief had consumed Derek the way it had nearly consumed Cole. The difference was that Derek had fed his grief. Let it grow into something cancerous. "I loved James more than my own life." Derek's voice cracked. "You took him from me." "I didn't," Cole said quietly. "Victoria did." "Liar." Derek's gun hand shook. "I needed someone to blame, someone to hurt. Hurting you didn't help. But I'm too far gone to stop now." Sarah's plea came from behind Cole. "Please, we're all victims here, all of us." Derek's tears mixed with melting snow on his face. "Some victims become monsters. I chose monster." His finger tightened on the trigger. The click of metal on metal, loud in the small clinic. Then another snowmobile sound, another person entering. A woman in black snow gear, moving with purpose and confidence. She removed her face covering, revealing features Cole knew better than his own. Victoria Morrison stood in the doorway, armed and smiling. "Hello, darling," she said to Cole. "Did you miss me?" Word count 1-500. Victoria's appearance changed everything. Derek's confusion was immediate and visible. "Victoria, what are you doing here? Lower the gun." "Derek," Victoria said calmly, as if addressing a child. "But you said—" "I say a lot of things." Victoria's smile was cold, clinical. Her own weapon, a pistol aimed casually at Derek, not at Cole. "You've been my useful idiot for 5 years, Derek. Surely you realize that eventually—" Derek's world shattered audibly. What? Victoria's confession came without remorse, each word precise. "I killed Ethan for $10 million in insurance. I manipulated your grief into revenge against Cole. I used your embezzlement, which I encouraged, by the way, to fund my lifestyle while building evidence against you. The plan was always to frame you for everything, kill Cole when he was vulnerable, and inherit Morrison Steele as Ethan's mother. Under Montana law, I have rights to my deceased son's inheritance if his father dies. $800 million, Derek. That's what you were worth to me." Derek's gun hand trembled. "I trusted you. I loved— You were pathetic. Your son was pathetic. Both of you. Accidents waiting to happen." Victoria's cruelty was casual, refined through years of practice. "I married Marcus to create a buffer. He handled the dirty work: surveillance, sabotage, intimidation. You provided the legitimate cover as COO. Marcus took the risks. You took the blame. And I walked away clean." Derek's rage redirected. He turned the gun toward Victoria. She was faster. The shot caught Derek in the shoulder, spinning him around. His weapon clattered across the floor. Derek collapsed, blood spreading across his expensive coat. Victoria's gun swiveled toward Cole. "Everyone dies tonight. The storm covers it perfectly. Family murder-suicide, pushed to extremes by grief and conspiracy. The evidence all points to Derek, the embezzlement, the sabotage, the violence. I'm the grieving ex-wife who tried to stop it and barely survived. Perfect crime." Grace's eyes opened slightly on the exam table. Conscious, aware, listening, the oxygen had brought her back just enough. Through her haze of medication and oxygen deprivation, Grace understood this woman killed someone named Ethan. The jacket Grace wore, Ethan's jacket. Cole had said Ethan would want her to wear it. This woman killed Cole's son. Grace's position on the table had been forgotten. Everyone focused on Victoria, on the standoff, on Derek, bleeding on the floor. Grace moved slowly, silently, the way she'd learned during her father's violent episodes. 6 feet to Derek's dropped gun. Her training came from trauma, watching her father handle weapons during PTSD episodes, learning gun safety through fear. The weapon was heavy in her small hands, her arms weak from the asthma attack. But Martha's voice echoed in her memory. "Don't let fear win, baby girl." Grace lifted the gun with both hands, the way she'd seen in movies, aimed at the center of mass like her father had drilled into her during his lucid moments. "Leave him alone." Grace's voice was weak but clear. Victoria turned, genuinely surprised. Then she laughed. "Child, you don't even know how to—" Grace pulled the trigger. The recoil threw her backward off the table. The shot went wild, missing Victoria completely, but striking the medical equipment cabinet. Glass shattered. One bullet pierced an oxygen tank. The hiss was immediate. Pure oxygen under pressure escaping into the room. The clinic's portable heater sat 3 feet from the tank, one spark from damaged wiring. A moment of chemistry and physics. The explosion wasn't large. Oxygen doesn't explode by itself, but the flash fire was instant and violent. Everyone was thrown down by the concussion and heat. Victoria recovered first, already moving toward the door. Cole followed, leaving Sarah to protect Grace and Martha. Outside, the blizzard still raged with undiminished fury, visibility near zero. Victoria ran blindly, disoriented by the explosion, panicked by her plan unraveling. Cole pursued through snow that grabbed at every step. Victoria's taunts came through the wind. "You never deserved Ethan. He was weak like you. I was glad when he died. $10 million glad." Her cruelty was designed to wound, to make Cole hesitate. It worked. He slowed. "He cried for you when he died." Victoria screamed, called for Daddy while the brakes failed. Useless boy didn't even try to survive. Cole's hands found Victoria's throat. The rage was overwhelming. 5 years of guilt, grief, and self-destruction found a target. He could end this. He should end this. "Mr. Cole, don't—" Grace's voice came from behind him, impossibly small in the storm. She'd followed despite her weakness, stumbled through still wearing Ethan's jacket, determined to stop him. "Don't be like her," Grace pleaded. "You're better." Cole hesitated. His hands loosened. That moment of mercy was Victoria's opportunity. She shoved Cole hard, breaking free, running into the whiteout. Her panic overrode survival instinct. She couldn't see the cliff edge that Cole and Martha had nearly driven over earlier. The same 200-foot drop to frozen river. Victoria's scream cut through the wind, as she realized too late. The ground disappeared beneath her feet. Cole lunged forward, reaching for her. Missing by inches, Victoria fell, Akimitsu, her scream fading into silence and distance. Cole collapsed in the snow, utterly spent. Grace sat beside him, tiny and freezing and impossibly brave. "You saved me," she whispered. "Now I saved you." They made it back to the clinic where Sarah had dragged Derek closer to warmth. Despite everything, the violence, the betrayal, the attempted murder, Sarah's nursing instincts overrode judgment. She was treating Derek's gunshot wound, applying pressure, managing bleeding. Derek's consciousness faded in and out. When lucid, his apologies came like confessions. "Sorry, so sorry." And Sarah's phone had regained signal, the storm breaking up, cell towers recovering. She recorded Derek's full confession to police. Every detail, Victoria killing Ethan and James deliberately, manipulating Derek's grief into weapons, the embezzlement, the conspiracy, all of it. Derek provided evidence from his phone, hidden files, insurance policy documentation, years of communications. "If I'm going down, she goes with me." Derek laughed painfully. "Oh, wait, she already went down, 200 feet down." His dark humor was disturbing and somehow human. Derek's question to Cole came through blood-flecked lips. "Can you ever forgive me?" Cole's answer was honest. "I forgive you, but you'll answer to the law." "Good. I deserve it." Derek's acceptance seemed genuine. "Tell James. Tell my son I'm sorry I became a monster." "I will," Cole promised. Sirens approached at 4:45 a.m. The storm was breaking, visibility improving, roads becoming passable, police, ambulance, rescue, all arriving as dawn approached. Grace stabilized completely. Roy would undergo successful surgery. Derek would survive to face trial. Martha and Sarah were unharmed. Justice was coming, but slowly, through proper channels. At the hospital, 10 hours later, Detective Lisa Crawford compiled evidence. Martha's testimony, corroborated by her police call from 6 months prior that had been dismissed as an elderly woman's confusion, Victoria's recorded confession during the clinic confrontation, Derek's detailed testimony and documentation, financial records from Janet Reese's investigation, Marcus Webb's testimony. He'd turned on Victoria immediately when offered a plea deal. The full picture emerged. Victoria had planned Ethan's death 6 months in advance. She'd chosen motorcycle sabotage because Cole taught Ethan to ride poetic cruelty. She'd tampered with brakes on both Cole's and Ethan's bikes, expecting Cole to discover the fault and test ride Ethan's motorcycle. Instead, Cole had given Ethan the keys directly. James asked to ride along an unexpected complication. Both boys died. Victoria collected $10 million, hid the money in offshore accounts, and prepared her next move. Derek's manipulation had been elegant from Victoria's perspective. She'd seduced him at James's funeral, weaponized his grief, convinced him to seek revenge against Cole. Marcus was planted to facilitate Derek's schemes while reporting everything to Victoria. All violence traced to Derek, none to Victoria. Her final plan let Derek destroy Cole emotionally, then kill Cole physically, frame Derek for murder-suicide, inherit Morrison Steele as the grieving mother, nearly perfect, In Roy's hospital room, private conversation revealed the last truth. Roy confessed his full identity. Colonel Roy Bennett, Cole's commanding officer in Afghanistan. 2004, the IED blast, Cole's critical condition. Martha Henderson, Army nurse, saving Cole's life through emergency blood transfusion using her own rare blood type. She'd given 3 pints, nearly died. Roy lost his eye in the same attack. Martha took shrapnel in her leg, the injury that required her cane. All 3 bonded by war, separated by different postings, lost contact for 20 years. Roy had recognized Martha immediately when she arrived in town. Martha's Alzheimer's was stealing the memories of what she'd sacrificed. "She gave me my life," Cole said quietly. "And you gave her granddaughter life," Roy replied. "That's how it works. We save each other." Then Roy dropped the final revelation. "Grace's blood type matches yours. Rare type. Same as Martha's. Worth checking." DNA test ordered with Sarah's permission. Results in 48 hours. The possibility hung unspoken. Grace might be Colta's biological daughter. Timeline 10 years ago. Cole in Chicago for business. Sarah working as a nurse at the same hospital where Cole was treated for a minor motorcycle accident. Sarah's secret might be bigger than anyone knew. 2 days later, in the hospital chapel, Cole requested a private meeting with Sarah. The DNA results had arrived. 99.9% probability confirmed. Cole was Grace's biological father. Sarah's confession came through tears. 10 years ago, Sarah had been an ER nurse in Chicago. Cole came in after a minor motorcycle crash. Both were vulnerable. Cole's marriage struggling. Sarah between relationships. One night, one connection. One pregnancy discovered after Cole left. Sarah's choice: raise the child alone. Never contact Cole. Michael met Sarah when Grace was 6 months old. Accepted Grace as his own daughter. The secret held for 9 years. "Why didn't you tell me?" Cole's voice held anger, grief, and joy simultaneously. "You had a family. I had nothing to offer you. I had a daughter for 9 years and didn't know." Sarah's apology was genuine, complete. "I'm sorry. I thought I was protecting everyone. Grace didn't know yet. They would tell her together when she was ready." The circle was complete. Martha saved Cole 20 years ago. Cole unknowingly fathered Grace 10 years ago. Cole saved Grace now, and Martha, Sarah, and Grace had given Cole reason to live again. Word, count 1, 2 feeing. 2 weeks transformed everything. Grace's lungs recovered fully under hospital care, her medication regimen adjusted and properly funded. Roy's heart valve replacement surgery succeeded beyond expectations. 6 to 8 weeks recovery time. But prognosis excellent. Derek remained hospitalized under police guard, stable, and awaiting trial. Martha's placement in an experimental Alzheimer's drug trial showed immediate promise. Her confusion episodes decreasing dramatically. The DNA results arrived during week 2. Cole requested privacy with Sarah in the hospital chapel, neutral ground, sacred space for sacred truth. He showed her the paper, 99.9% probability of paternity. Cole Morrison was Grace's biological father. Sarah's 10-year secret spilled out completely. Chicago, emergency room, one vulnerable night. Cole's motorcycle accident had been minor, but the connection between nurse and patient had been profound. Sarah discovered her pregnancy after Cole left. She made the choice to raise Grace alone. never contacting the married billionaire who wouldn't remember one night during his troubled marriage. Michael Hayes met Sarah when Grace was 6 months old, loved the baby as his own, never questioned paternity. The secret held for 9 years. "Why didn't you tell me?" Cole's voice carried anger and grief and joy all at once. "You had a family. I had nothing to offer you. It seemed kinder. I had a daughter for 9 years and didn't know." Sarah's apology was complete, her tears genuine. They agreed to tell Grace together when she was strong enough. The conversation happened 3 days later. Grace's reaction was pure and simple. Surprise, then joy, then one immediate question. "So does this mean you and Mama?" The hope in her voice was transparent. Grace wanted them together, wanted a complete family, wanted the fairy tale ending that 9-year-olds believe is possible. Cole and Sarah exchanged glances. That question had no easy answer yet. 6 weeks later, Derek Morrison faced trial. The charges: embezzlement, conspiracy, attempted murder. His plea: guilty on all counts, part of a negotiated deal. Derek's testimony convicted Marcus Webb of murder conspiracy, us, and attempted murder. Marcus received 25 years to life. Derek received 15 years with possibility of parole for cooperation. Victoria Morrison's case closed posthumously. First-degree murder of 2 minors, declared officially based on overwhelming evidence. Her body was recovered from the frozen river 2 weeks after her fall. The coroner ruled death by blunt force trauma. Multiple fractures, exposure, no heroic recovery, no last-minute escape, just consequences. Cole provided a victim impact statement that influenced Derek's sentencing. He spoke of 5 years stolen, of guilt that wasn't his to carry, of a brother consumed by grief. But he also spoke of mercy, of understanding that Derek had been manipulated and broken. Ethan, Cole testified, would have wanted rehabilitation over pure punishment. Derek wept openly during Cole's testimony. The judge considered Cole's words carefully when determining sentence length. The court ordered Derek to pay full restitution, $45 million, recovered from offshore accounts. Cole directed every penny to the newly established Ethan Morrison Memorial Fund. The charity's purpose: supporting families of veteran suicide victims. First recipient, Roy Bennett, all surgery costs covered. Second recipient, Martha Henderson, full Alzheimer's treatment funded indefinitely. Martha's experimental medication showed remarkable results. Memory improvement was significant and sustained. She recognized family consistently. Her journal entries decreased from daily reminders to weekly check-ins. Her role expanded. She became a counselor for military families, using her nursing background and personal experience to help others navigate grief and medical crises. Martha moved into a small cottage built on Cole's property, new construction, proper heating, full accessibility. She maintained independence while having support nearby. And Roy Bennett, once the loneliest man in town, began courting Martha with old-fashioned persistence. At 78, Roy finally found courage to ask out the woman who'd saved his life 40 years ago. "Took near death in 20 years, Roy joked, "but I finally got a date." Martha's joy was infectious. She laughed, really laughed. For the first time in years, Morrison Steel underwent complete transformation. Derek's CFO position was eliminated. Janet Reese, the private investigator with business background, became the new chief operating officer. The company mission expanded beyond luxury motorcycles into medical equipment manufacturing. Morrison Medical launched with one flagship product, affordable asthma inhalers, sold at $15 each. Exactly what they cost to produce. No profit margin, no price gouging, just medicine at cost. Within the first year, 100,000 families benefited. Cole initiated an employee ownership program, 30% of company profits distributed directly to workers. Loyalty through respect, not fear. Company value increased to $1.2 billion. Ethical practices, it turned out, were also profitable. 6 months after that terrible night, Grace turned 10 years old. The rebuilt cabin garage replaced and expanded. New family wing with 4 bedrooms added hosted a small celebration. Residents now included Cole, Sarah still in her own room, relationship developing slowly, Grace, and Martha in her nearby cottage. Roy attended dinner nightly as honored guest. The birthday cake was homemade by Sarah Chocolate with chocolate frosting, on Grace's favorite. Gifts reflected thoughtfulness over expense. Cole gave Grace a junior mechanic tool set with a promise to rebuild Ethan's motorcycle together. Sarah presented a diary with a lock. Your thoughts are safe. Martha contributed the Henderson family photo album, Your History. Roy brought a model motorcycle kit, Build Memories. Grace's happiness was visible, complete, radiating from her like light. She closed her eyes to make her birthday wish. When she opened them, Cole asked the traditional question, "What did you wish for?" Grace's smile was pure contentment. Nothing. I have everything. After dinner, after cake, after Grace went to bed, still wearing Ethan's leather jacket that somehow still fit her growing frame, Cole and Sarah found themselves alone on the porch. 8 p.m., winter evening, stars visible through clear Montana sky. Cold, but bearable, peaceful. 6 months ago, we were starving, Sarah reflected. 6 months ago, I was dead inside, Cole answered. Thank you. For Grace, for me, for Mom. Thank you for giving me reason to live. Comfortable silence stretched between them. Then Cole spoke. Sarah, I know this is complicated. Grace is my daughter. That's amazing and terrifying. But, he paused, choosing words carefully. I love Grace because she's my daughter. But I love you because of who you are. Not because of her, because of you. Sarah's tears were joy and relief and love all mixed together. I've loved you for 10 years. Since that first night in Chicago, I just never thought. Cole kissed her. Tentative at first, then passionate, then gentle again. A beginning. Grace's voice came from an upstairs window. Finally, they laughed, caught by their observant daughter. Martha's voice joined in. About time, you two. Roy's deep chuckle. I called it 6 months ago. The family's joy echoed into the Montana night. Camera pulls back through the window. Inside, the warm kitchen holds 5 people around one table. Grace sits in Cole's lap, wearing Ethan's jacket. Sarah leans against Cole's shoulder. Martha holds Roy's weathered hand. The moment is perfect, earned, real. Cole's voiceover. Family isn't who you're born to. It's who you'd die for, who you'd live for. Text appears on screen. The Ethan Morrison Memorial Fund has helped 500,000 families. Martha Henderson's Alzheimer's remains stable. Grace Morrison graduated medical school in 20, specializing in pediatric pulmonology. Roy and Martha married in 20s. Sarah and Cole married in 20s. They had 2 more children. Final shot a photograph on the mantle. The whole family 5 years later, everyone smiling, everyone together, everyone home, fade to black, final text. For everyone fighting alone, you're not alone, reach out, someone will answer. The end word, count 200. This story asks a question we all face eventually. When life strips everything away, health, security, the people we love, what really matters? Martha wrote in her journal every night, terrified she'd forget her granddaughter's face. Roy prepared to die alone in a cold garage because he didn't want to be a burden. Sarah worked herself to exhaustion, believing that suffering in silence was strength. They all thought they had to fight their battles alone. But the truth that saved them wasn't about being strong. It was about being brave enough to accept help, to admit, I can't do this alone, and to believe that their lives still mattered to someone. Cole didn't save Grace's life because he was rich or powerful. He saved poor because he saw her, really saw her, when the rest of the world looked away. And in saving her, Grace saved him right back. That's the truth. Nobody tells you about getting older. You don't become less valuable. You become more precious to those who truly see you. So, here's my question. When was the last time someone really saw you? And who in your life needs you to see them? Drop a comment below your story. Might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today.